So I get the honor every year to host the Pac-12 Hall of Honor, which is, for lack of a better term, the Hall of Fame for the Pac-12. It used to be just men's basketball. A couple years ago, they expanded it to all sports. And when they expanded to all sports, it became really special. And for the guy hosting it as a sports nerd, it was amazing. And what happens is the event is about like from 4 to 5 o'clock, and then you go over and you go to the game and everybody celebrates. But the pre-event is when I really do a lot of my work. And I go around to every person who's getting inducted, and I spend 10 to 12, 15 minutes with them. Sometimes you get a longer period of time. Dick Fosbury is my guy that I want to talk about, who I know you love. Dick Fosbury, who I had no clue was. I knew the name, I knew the Fosbury flop, but I did not know the history or the story, and I don't know all of it now. But when I got to sit next to him, when he got inducted into the Pac-12 Hall of Honor, I simply asked him, Dick, back in the day, high jumping used to be something that you jumped basically head first. Like, it wasn't the way that he did it. You kind of jump and you'd leap. Like, imagine your grandkids or Zane, like, or your kids at home jumping over like the couch, and they're just jumping into it. Well, he flipped it. And I asked him, hey, how did that happen? He goes, well, one day I just decided to try something different. And he jumped up and he did the little scissor kick and he landed on his back. Yep. He jumped up, did the scissor kick, landed on his back, and he kept going up. And it was another foot, another 6 inches, another 3 inches. And all of a sudden, this guy rewrote a sport. And when I sat there in Las Vegas and I looked him in the eye and I just said, Mr. Fosbury, like, what made you try something that you'd never seen before? And he simply stared at me and he goes, well, I had to be fearless and I had to try something new. And how many times have you and I talked over the course of the last month where we said, you know what? Be fearless, but not reckless. So I didn't intend to tell this story based on COVID-19 and everything going on, but Dick Fosbury in sports, again, what a great illustration of life, reminded me, try something new, whether that's me teaching a 5-year-old preschool every day or being with your grandkids, or a new lifestyle all across the United States and the world, or having to be in our homes for the majority of days. Try something new because it might be magic. And that's what Dick Fosbury reminded me of today from a story he told me years ago.
That's great. I'm laughing as go Beavs, by the way, Fosbury. But what I remember is, as a kid in gym class, when that happened, and that, you know, as kids, you're in gym class, and we would all try to do the same thing. And of course, we were doing it. Well, in my case, I was not in the same shape I am in as an adult. So for me, the bar was about 1 foot 3 inches. And then if I made it over that, we get up half an inch. And you're talking about a foot. But that's funny, because when I remember when he came to Las Vegas for that honor, and I said hello to him. I'd never met him either, but, you know, my generation, that was the Fosbury flop was a big deal. This is something totally different. Okay, Yogi, where were you November 2005?
I was broadcasting. First year at USC.
Yes, you were.
Yeah, that's right.
You were.
November. So we might have been in South Bend somewhere in November.
No, the first Saturday of November in 2005, we were both at the Collie in Los Angeles, and I was broadcasting for Stanford.
Oh, I know this story.
Which had just been taken over. Well, I'm not sure if you know this one. That just been taken over by the man that Yogi made famous, Walt Harris, who Yogi played for at Pitt, was in his first year as the Stanford head coach. Had Yogi and this other Fitzgerald guy not been so good, Walt would have never been a BCS coach and gotten the Stanford job anyway. So Stanford is at USC this night. And this is USC. Halftime, it's 44-7. So I step out of the booth. I'm doing Stanford radio, and I step out of the booth at halftime to go to the men's room. And the booth next to me was the Stanford administrating booth, and the acting athletic director for Stanford during that football season was Bill Walsh. Stanford was in the process of changing athletic directors, and there was a football season without. So Bill, who was in the end of his life, sadly, but this was his last job, and he was the interim athletic director, who ultimately was involved in hiring Jim Harbaugh when Walt's tenure ended at Stanford. So Bill Walsh steps out, and I just look at him, and he goes, "Can you believe that?" He goes, "Every one of their offensive players is an NFL player." said, we may have 2 NFL players on our entire team. And every one of their, and this was Leinart, Bush, Lendale White, Steve Smith, and of course on defense, Clay Matthews, Ray Maualuga, Frosty Rucker. I'm blanking, and there's probably 2 or 3 more. I mean, just studs at all these positions. And I remember Bill just shook his head. So then the conversation over the next 2 minutes extended to, because we knew what was going to happen at that point. It looked like USC was going to play Texas, right? So I remember I asked Bill, so, what do you think of Vince Young? And he goes, oh, it'll be hard. I mean, as good as USC is, this will be hard. And for the USC, which turned out to be a great game. And I said, what about the pros? And he goes, no. So really? He goes, you have to understand. He said, in the NFL, he said, the safeties are just as big as Vince Young, and they're faster, the safeties. He said, you can't pull that off. He said, in college, he's bigger and faster than a lot of the defenders. In the NFL, the safeties, and it turned out to be prescient, which to this day, I remember that was 15 years ago. And by the way, it was the last conversation I ever had with Bill. Bill took ill, really took ill and passed away probably a year or so after this game. But I always remember that for those 2 things and how smart he was, that now 15 years later, we're watching the latest incarnation of a Vince Young style, which is Lamar Jackson, right, in the NFL, and trying to see if he can sustain success, because no one's done it in that style. So, Bill Walsh, who is amazing. He only coached 5 years at Stanford, 2 years his first time, 3 years when he came back. But he is so ingrained in the fabric of Stanford football, which is a historic traditional football program, that I'm so thrilled, because I had other times to be around it, but I just remember that because it was the last conversation, and he was so right to the point.
Wow.
And you were there, Yogi. You were there.
I wish
24-7. Do you remember?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because I remember talking to Walt in pregame, and he said, "I didn't know you wanted to coach. If you did, I would have brought you to Stanford." And here I was making about $15,000 sleeping in the office, but
my friend Todd Husak, who's gone on to great success in the real estate business, but still does the radio for Stanford. Todd was on that staff as a GA, and he was not making $15,000. That's why he left.
Totally. Oh, I love that's an amazing story. That'll be clipped off. Check it out on Ted's YouTube channel. Ted, I want to end it with a little audible. What are you doing right now? If we could each give a nugget, like what have you done over the course of this time at home that may be new to your life that's brought you some joy?
Well, I've spent a lot of time with our grandkids, which has been a good thing. New is probably, I'm helping my incredible wife We're deep cleaning our house room by room. She's the leader on that for smart reasons, but that's given where we are. We have a 3rd grandchild coming this summer. That's a smart thing. What I'm trying to do, and I've been reading a ton, working out actually really well. But what I'm trying to do is get back on the piano, and I've been doing it fits and starts. I was a pretty enthusiastic piano player in my teens, 20s, into my early 30s, and then parenthood came along, and I got derailed. And so now I'm trying to get back into a better regimen of sitting down every day. That's what you have to do. You just have to sit down every day. I met Bruce Hornsby once. I met him a few times, but the first time I met him, it was 20 or so years ago in a baseball clubhouse. And I had some sheet music of his that I was using. And I just basically said, anything, man, tell me. I mean, I'll never be you, but just give me some idea. And he said, I'll give you one word 3 times. Practice, practice, practice. True story. It's exactly what he said.
That's awesome.
So anyway, I'm trying to do it. How about you?
So I saw this on somebody's Instagram post where it was like, you know what? It was a guy who played football at Wisconsin. And he said, call a teammate. And it inspired me to call my old teammates.
That's good.
And I've been recording it. So I recorded one with a guy who you probably know the name, Lusaka Polite, who played about a decade in the league as a fullback, undrafted out of Pitt, and went to Parcells with the Cowboys, Patriots with Belichick, Miami with Parcells again, went to the Bears with Lovie Smith. Just some really good head coaches. And now he's running basically the mentorship program at Pitt for student athletes to place them in jobs. And it was amazing. And I'm going to try to do one a week and record it and put them on my podcast of just
That's smart. Yeah.
catching up. And there's no agenda on the conversation. We're literally just catching up and talking about what it was like being teammates. And this is a guy who, when I was a walk-on and just trying to figure it out, he was a 4-year starter, the only 3-time captain in Pitt football history. And he was just a guy I looked up to so much. And just telling him things like that I've never told him, it was really fun selfishly. Like, man, I felt really good after that of just connecting to somebody who had a huge part of my life. And I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna commit to once a week calling an old team.
Good for you. That's who you are. And social contact right now, because you've heard me talk about this, I am massive on this point, as I really believe that we're going to face a significant mental health challenge. And I just hope all the governments, both federal and local, put our resources that we have. We have incredible resources at hand for mental health care, and we put that out here in the next. And I've been doing that actually with both relatives and longtime friends of mine, because I'm in the target age bracket for this virus. So I've been reaching out in that regard as more of a, collegial, sympathetic thing about, hey, we're all in this thing together, because we're the ones right now that a lot of people are doing this. We're getting the Heisman from a lot of people. When I go to the store, they see, okay, here comes the OG, and they give you one of those. So I've been doing that a little bit, but the impetus to make that communication and contact. Good job, Yogi.
Cool. Thanks, bro. All right. I love you. We'll be back next week, and we'll keep diving in here on the Ted and Yogi's Pac-12 adventure. Again, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can get our stories, the archives, the full podcast, wherever you listen to it. Subscribe, rate, review, and let us know what you want to hear about. We got time. If there's one thing we got, Ted, we got time. All right.